On a scorching afternoon in the summer of 1875, Thaddeus Whitmore stood on his weathered porch, gripping his rifle, his eyes fixed on a dust cloud rising on the horizon. His Montana ranch, a hard-won patch of earth, was his sanctuary, guarded by a reputation forged in blood. 3 years ago, he'd put a bullet in a trespasser's shoulder, a warning that ensured no one dared cross his land again. But now, 10 figures emerged from the heat shimmer, moving toward his fence with purpose. They were women, Chinese women, by their silk dresses and graceful poise. Thaddeus's jaw tightened. Outsiders were trouble, and he wanted none of it. The leader, a young woman with dirt-stained silk and fierce eyes, stepped forward at the gate. Her name, he'd later learn, was Li Wei. "Please, sir," she said in halting English, palms raised. "We need help." "No place to go." "Get off my land," Thaddeus growled, his rifle steady. He'd built a wall around his heart after losing his wife, Margaret, and daughter, Emma, to raiders 3 years prior. Their deaths had left him a husk, distrustful of the world. Li Wei took a step closer, undeterred. Behind her, 9 women, some barely adults, huddled, their faces gaunt with hunger and fear. "We work," she insisted. "Cook, clean, I said get off," he roared, descending the porch steps. The women flinched, but Li Wei held her ground, her eyes locking onto his. In them, he saw not just defiance but a flicker of shared pain. She'd known loss, too. "They come for us," she whispered. "Bad men. They hurt us if they find us." Thaddeus's chest tightened, but he shoved the feeling down. Other people's problems weren't his burden, not since Margaret's screams and Emma's limp hand had shattered his world. "Should have thought of that before coming here," he said, raising his rifle. 10 seconds, or I shoot." But Li Wei's gaze held him, a silent plea cutting through his resolve. Then, the distant thunder of hoofbeats broke the standoff. Her composure shattered, replaced by raw terror. The other women clustered like frightened sparrows, whimpering. "Hide us," Li Wei begged. "They kill us." The hoofbeats grew louder, 6 riders, maybe more, closing fast. "What did you do?" Thaddeus demanded. "Nothing," Li Wei said, tears spilling. "We escape. From, mine. Bad place. Men who, by us." Her hands gestured helplessly, her English failing her. The truth hit Thaddeus like a slug to the chest. These weren't wanderers, they were escaped slaves, hunted by men who saw them as property. One woman, barely 16, collapsed, sobbing in Chinese. Li Wei knelt, comforting her, but her eyes stayed on Thaddeus, pleading. "The barn," he said, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "Hide there. Stay quiet." Li Wei's eyes widened with gratitude. She barked orders in Chinese, and the women scrambled to the barn. She lingered a moment. "Why help us?" Thaddeus had no answer, only memories of his failure to save his family. "Just hide," he growled. As the barn door slammed shut, 6 riders crested the hill, dust-covered men with hard eyes and harder reputations. Their leader, a tall man with a scar from ear to mouth, reined in his horse. "Afternoon," he called. "Name's Crenshaw. Looking for some property that wandered off." "Don't know what you're talking about," Thaddeus replied, rifle visible but lowered. Crenshaw's smile was cold. 10 Chinese girls. Pretty things. Probably came through begging for help. They belong to us, legal, with papers." "Haven't seen anyone," Thaddeus said. "Mind if you take a look around?" "I mind plenty." The air crackled with tension. Crenshaw's men, hands on gun belts, eyed Thaddeus's steady stance. Something in his gaze, the look of a man with nothing to lose, made them pause. "We'll be back," Crenshaw said, turning his horse. "And less polite." As the riders vanished, Thaddeus entered the barn. 10 pairs of eyes met his, fear mingling with hope. Li Wei stepped forward. "They gone. For now." He studied them, young, battered, their torn silk hinting at lives stolen. Tell me about the mine. Li Wei's hands shook. Not mine. They say mine, but, they bring us from China. Promise work, good life. But they lock us up. House where men, pay. Her voice broke. An older woman, scars on her wrists, added, fire in kitchen. Guards run. We run. 3 days ago, Li Wei said. We walk, hide. They follow with dogs, horses. Thaddeus ran a hand through his graying hair. He'd sworn off other people's fights, but fate had other plans. A young girl spoke, and Li Wei translated. She asks if you'll give us to them. Thaddeus met their eyes, seeing Margaret's desperate gaze from years ago. He'd failed her. He wouldn't fail again. What's your name? He asked the leader, Li Wei. Means beautiful rose. Those men, he said, voice hardening, I know their leader. Crenshaw. 3 years ago, he burned my farm, killed my wife and daughter. Now he's back, and you're his target. I've got a choice to make. That night, Thaddeus prepared his home, positioning the women in the root cellar and attic. Li Wei stayed in the main room, helping ration food. You don't have to do this, she said. We can leave. Where? He asked. Crenshaw's got men everywhere. You run, he'll find you by morning. A young girl, Min, offered a tiny jade dragon, her only keepsake. She says thank you, Li Wei translated. Thaddeus refused it, but Min pressed it into his hand, her eyes shining with gratitude. As darkness fell, Thaddeus and Li Wei sat by the fire. She spoke of her village in China, her father's garden, her mother's dumplings. They saved for 2 years to send me here, she said, wiping a tear. They think I'm safe. Thaddeus thought of his own lost family. If you could tell your father one thing, what would it be? That America's not what we thought, she said. But I met a man who remembers kindness, even when the world tried to make him forget. Movement outside silenced them. Torches circled the house. Crenshaw was back, with more men. Get them to the root cellar, Thaddeus whispered. There's a tunnel to the well house. If it goes bad, run. And you? Li Wei asked. I'm giving Crenshaw what he wants, me. The front door exploded inward. Crenshaw entered with 4 men, his scarred face smug. Where are they, Thaddeus? Left an hour ago, headed north, Thaddeus lied. Crenshaw laughed. You're still a terrible liar. Remember stealing apples as kids, Thad? The familiarity hit like a blade. Billy Cr. You killed Margaret and Emma, Thaddeus said, voice shaking. Business, Billy shrugged. Your farm was in my way. A muffled cough from the cellar betrayed the women. Billy's eyes gleamed. Thaddeus raised his rifle, shattering the oil lamp, plunging the room into chaos. He dove behind a table as bullets flew. Billy shouted, burn him out. But keep the girls alive. Smoke filled the air as flames caught. Thaddeus lobbed a whiskey bottle Molotov through the window, scattering Billy's men. He sprinted for the back door, but Billy was there, gun raised. They fired simultaneously, Thaddeus tackling him through the kitchen table. They grappled, Billy's pistol inches from Thaddeus's face. You're too soft, Billy sneered. That's why your family died. Maybe, Thaddeus growled, turning the gun. But I'm strong enough for this. The shot ended Billy's life. Outside, Thaddeus faced 3 more men, dispatching them in the firelight. By dawn, he sat bleeding on the porch steps, 6 bodies around him. Li Wei emerged from the wellhouse, rushing to his side. You're hurt. I'll live, he said, gazing at his ruined home. What now? 3 months later, a new community thrived around the wellhouse. Thaddeus and Li Wei hung laundry, the women working the garden, their laughter blending Chinese and English. A new house rose from the ashes, larger than before. It's too big, Thaddeus teased. 10 women need room, Li Wei smiled. And you? He offered them freedom to leave, but Li Wei shook her head. This is home. A letter from Li Wei's father arrived, thanking Thaddeus for protecting his daughter. That night, around the fire, Thaddeus looked at his new family, Min teaching English, June cooking, Shu building furniture. The jade dragon sat on their mantel, beside a faded photo of Margaret and Emma. Thaddeus had thought his story ended in loss. But from 10 strangers, he'd found redemption. Sometimes, those who need shelter most give you a home in return.